welcome back to Sixes and Sevens round 13 review. It feels like an age since I've spoke to me mates. That means it feels like an age for our footy nerds since you've heard our voices. But we are still here. We just had a day late because it was my birthday yesterday, the big 3-9. So one, I had a sleep in, and two, I got a little bit spoilt. So I'll leave that for another viewing of why I got spoilt. But no, it's been great. It's been rugby league's been great, Mitch. What have you been up to, buddy?
Good to see you, brother. I miss you too. I was just getting a bit of we were just having a bit of a chat before the show to the viewers. Hello to all the viewers, but I miss that head, man. I do. I miss the momentum. I miss my little mate. But mate, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday for yesterday. Obviously the show got put back, but another great round of footy. The Galvin interview you're going to go into in a second. I always love watching rounds of footy after Origin. We spoke about how players are going to bounce back, and they all looked a step ahead, didn't they? Cleary, Munster. I've just had a brain freeze. Who else stood
Moses,
up?
Haas.
Moses. I had him. Edwards
Payne
played
Haas
well
was good for the Broncos.
Payne Haas, yes. Cherry Evans, that was the one I was going to talk about. Obviously, Ches under pressure and came out and dominated. Oh, Dearden was the other one. Dearden had a great cracker up there too. So, yeah, it's always good when you watch them coming back and how they're going to perform after a big series, after a big game, and plenty of good footy. But I miss you, brother.
Happening in your world,
I miss you too, Gabe.
What's been happening in your world, but I want to, it's a good insight sometimes. What's been happening in your world? What's been happening in mine? Like, fucking just give me a happy birthday and move on from midlife. Yeah. Is that where it's got to? I'm like, we're not going to get to the point of just, okay, we're going to jump on a podcast and just talk shit about footy. Give us a bit of insight of what you're up to. You're about to have a baby soon. It's getting hot over in France. You look tan.
Very hot. I'm getting very tan.
What's going on? Are you training?
But the baby... I train. I'm helping out the Catalans a little bit. The boys are in a bit of a hole.
They might need to re-sign me. The Byron Bay Red Devils re-signed me on the weekend.
We'll get over here, Toddy. We can co-coach and do the podcast out of here. Gabe can come over for Europe summer. It's a good plan, actually. Bit of reboot in Europe, reboot back home. But nah, mate, life's good. Obviously, Leela's, my partner's getting big. I'm going through the preparation. Geez, it's an exciting time. It's a funny time when you're about to have a baby, and you've obviously know that. Yeah, I think so. That's what I mean. That's what I was about to get at when someone says it. Like, are you ready? Fuck if I know, but I think so. I think so. I'm ready, but I'm nervous. But I'm calm. But I'm excited. But I'm joyful. I got all the emotions, brother.
Oh, you'll have plenty.
I can't wait. We're prepared as we can be. But mate, how much love and respect you have for your partner through these periods.
Are you in your new house?
Crazy. Nah, soon.
Oh, yeah, very good. That's so good. It's exciting times for you, mate. It's very exciting times for you. Obviously, the footy aside for you with the Catalan stuff you're doing, but obviously you left to go over there to have your baby, and it's exciting times for you. It's a new challenge, a new part of your life, which is obviously what we all want to be as men, dads. And you've got a special daughter on the way, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that journey for you and seeing how it all unfolds, because, as I say, when you have a kid, you realise you're human, and it's so true. And then you become a protector for someone, you become that person. And me knowing you as a person, as a great mate, your daughter will be a very lucky girl.
Oh, you're a beautiful boy. You're such a beautiful man.
Beautiful boy.
I'll tell you what, though, I want to talk about you for a bit. Let's just suck each other off for the show.
Yeah, sweet.
For all the viewers that don't know, Toddy's got a pretty big... You maybe haven't announced it. Have you announced the walk?
Nah, I haven't announced the walk. But there is a walk coming at the end of the...
There's a big walk coming. A very, very big walk by all reports. So actually, I thought you have... So
still in early stages of that. I tell you what, if I had to walk today, I'm struggling after me cameo for Byron on the weekend.
Who wants to go with the pneumonia? That's a big topic.
Yeah, well, as you would have seen over the last probably 4 weeks, I've I was a bit crook one morning after Magic Round when it was like everyone could have been excused of had the Tui's flu or had a big weekend. Yeah, had a relapse, but there was obviously no relapse, but there was a sickness. And I caught a flu off my young fella, which has led ongoing for the last 5-6 weeks. Got our blood tests and swabs last week, and I've got walking pneumonia, it's called. So that's why I've been a little bit under the weather and a little bit croaky and sniffly and puffed up.
Heavy. Sounds really heavy. I don't understand what walking pneumonia is.
I don't really know either. I just was told, here, have this asthma puffer, have some antibiotics, and you'll be sweet. So, and it's so far so good.
So you got it off Lion?
No, I caught a common flu offline, which was going around the school. And then it's led to some. I don't actually know the details of it. And it's probably above our pay grade to understand what walking pneumonia is. But that's the reason why I've been crook for 4 or 5 weeks.
Wow. Yeah, it's not normal to have the flu for 5 weeks, is it? So
no, I was getting worried.
At least you got a diagnosis now.
Yeah, that's right, and I could move on from it. But we're here, obviously, to talk about the round.
I reckon it's just from living in Queensland. Even though it's nice, those people up there, they give me the flu too. Queenslanders.
Oh, you having an attack at Queenslanders? It's a bit early for that. Origin teams aren't picked yet. You did.
It's that time of the.
Is this
that time of the year, brother? We can just any jab we get into them.
Getting back on the good side.
Well, you have to get back on the good side because there's still fuming people out there disappointed. But
I'll stand by my word.
We'll talk about round.
Opinion. I never rolled.
We are here to talk about round 13 review, but I would have loved for someone to review my game from the weekend.
How'd you go, old boy?
It was all right. You know what? You
still feel good?
No, you feel good out there, but today I'm sore. Yesterday I was sore. But I was going to go down and watch, and I just gave Mickey Foster and Toby Marks, the coach, and Brad Lees as a coach. I gave him a ring and said, what were they up to? What time was the game? And I said,
you weren't going to play originally?
Nah. And I was in the shed, cleaning the shed out. And I thought, they said, do you need any players? And they said, yeah, we do actually. And I said, can I register and come down? Went inside, chucked my boots in the bag and went down and had a game. And they had their first win for the year.
How do you play if you're not?
I registered.
How do you? So you just register. Anyone can register any time.
Well, if you don't have to, I didn't need a release or anything, so I've been there for the last 5 years, so I could just register. And
I thought there'd be like a certain amount of players. Like you can't just go and bring anyone in.
Nah, it's not fucking NRL. It's NRL. Well, it's not rat's ass, but you can register anyone as long as they don't have any outgoings to other clubs or they need to be released by the clubs. If it was that was the case, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But I got out there and had a run around and saw today.
I feel like playing now you're saying it. I've actually had this little thought. Now you've said it, I'll tell the truth. Because I reckon if I put my hand up to have a little run around, I reckon they'd let me here, or they'd want me to, potentially. But I was there the other day. I'm not sure how it would work. I think it's just a bit of banner because they're not playing that great, the boys. But fuck, when you're around it, you do get that itch again, don't you?
Yeah,
the itch to actually do it.
I just love training. You do. We
love training.
You scratch it. It's a little bit more pressure over there, lining up in a Super League jumper and going out there against like decent professionals,
good players.
Yeah, well, there's good players that I played on the weekend. Young kids, older blokes that have played at a high level. But it's completely different. And I wouldn't have got a pass mark in a Super League game, that's for sure. Played in the dinner suit.
Well, it sounds good in theory when you're getting a bit older until you get out there and you get back in a 10-minute arm wrestle and your hammy's about to pop off. Then you know you're old.
Very old. Well, one bloke that's not old, he's very young and he's obviously got plenty of years of footy and plenty of more headlines to come, plenty more great accolades to come, a future rep player, the best young player in the game, as Gus Gould, the Godfather, said. Lachlan Galvin had a tell-all interview the other night on 100% footy. 100% footy's getting a fair few ratings at the moment. Last week I was on there when Gus and Chemis went at it.
Is that why the ratings are going up?
I think so.
That was very calculated from the boss.
One, it was because of me, and then one was because of Gus and Chemis interview. But obviously the big interview that's come out is obviously, and it's, I believe, and everyone's going to have an opinion because that's what they're entitled to. I think it's been a great move by the Bulldogs. Obviously, because Gus is on 100% footy, for him to come out and have the interview. Because you know what happens when the player speaks. For so long, it's been, his managers misled him, things like that, how it's all gone down. He's now come out and owned it. So it's now all falls on him, where it was the opposite before. Everyone was questioning his manager for misleading him. The Dogs, the Tigers, the players, things like that. So he's come out and sort of put everything to bed that everyone like us can talk about to say, okay, well, it was his decision. It wasn't money-driven. He's sweet at the Tigers. Him and the boys are good. Luai obviously gave a leaving thank you and thing to the fans at the Tigers. But I feel it still hasn't. He still really didn't dive into why he left the Tigers or what the issue was at the Tigers. Obviously, months ago, it was that he didn't have any faith in the coaching staff, things like that. But now he's at the Dogs. So many questions to be answered where he'll play. We'll get the team list out for this weekend. Where do you see him lining up?
Well, for me, I see him in the halves. He's only going there for one reason, in my opinion. He's going there to play half. But to answer your question of him sort of sidestepping the question, I felt like he did answer it in his own way. The interview, the part of it that I saw, which was most of it, he spoke about where he wants to go somewhere where he sees he's going to best develop. And he spoke about Serraldo and how good the system is at the Dogs. And as I've said the whole time we spoke about the topic, I'm going to stick up for Galvin again. I can't blame him for wanting to leave, to go to a system that's a top four side when there's an opportunity for him to leave. And I feel like he's stuck to his guns the whole time. And I do believe that he's telling the truth. He's a young kid. He seems like a confident kid, like he's got a bit of staunch about him, like he sort of backs himself. I like it. I love it. I love the fact that he stands there and he owns who he is. He's knows where he wants to go. He's confident in what he wants to do. It might rub some people up the wrong way because he's got a bit of brash about him. But I think I think his vision and backing himself and him thinking that it's a better system at the Dogs than at the Tigers to develop, good on him. That's what he believes. And in 5 years' time, if he goes and wins a comp with the Dogs, plays his best footy, which we'll get to that in a second, what position he's going to play in his impact, I think it'll be a great move for him. It'll be great for the Dogs. He's got the best young coach in the comp. Gus Gould is a mentor in a club that's going to be good. They're going to be up the top for a long time, a lot longer than the Tigers, in my opinion. And I'm telling you now, do you think anyone's going to give a fuck in 3 years' time when he's the man playing great footy? I'm saying best case scenario that he left the Tigers. I'll give examples. Cherry Evans knocked back the Titans years ago, plays at Manly now. He's a club legend. No one speaks about it until the recent debacle. No one's ever brought it up again. Give me another example, Gabe. There's been plenty of players over the history that have had great legacies that no one remembers their move back in the early days. Maybe there'll be some people that hold on to it, people involved at the Tigers. Jerome Luai and him may not be close mates, who knows? But the bigger picture, good on you, Galvin, backing yourself. There was an opportunity to leave. You thought that this was going to be a better option for you to go to a club that you believed had more longevity and more development. Good on him.
Yeah.
And on top of that as well, Toddy, I think it's great that he came out and spoke. You know, he's been getting mud on his name. All the rumours are out saying that his teammates don't like him. He's a poor character. Good on him. Go and own the camera. No one else is going to stick up for him in those situations. He's just getting hit from pillar to post. Good on him for coming out and saying what he thinks.
Oh, exactly right. And you know what? At the end of the day, he's not going to be the first. He's not going to be the last player to do what he's done. The conversation there's talk about him and Luai. Luai done the same thing to Penrith.
Luai did the same thing.
Yeah, but it's just that's rugby league, and at the end of the day, like I said at the start, I think it was a masterstroke by the Bulldogs to put it to bed, so now he can concentrate on his footy. Now we're talking about his footy. Obviously, you just spoke about best case scenario, worst case scenario. What if Dogs? And this is a what if. What if Dogs? The pressure lumps on him if he goes out, and they don't win games.
That's every possibility, but it's the same situation at the Tigers. It's like any choice you make in life. You got to take a risk and you back yourself. And if he fails, well, at least he's had a crack.
Okay, so does he play 7 this weekend?
He'll be 7, I reckon.
7
at the Dogs. I reckon
Burton 6.
He's halfback. Well, Burton's not going to play halfback. Burton's not going to be halfback.
This is what we're here to talk. Like, it's not. I'm not asking.
Burton's a 6. Burton's 6. No, that's my opinion. I said that last week. Burton's 6. He's a 5'8", running 5'8", with a great kicking game, left foot kick. Galvin, there's no other position he's going to be playing. I spoke about last week potentially in the future. He's got the ability to maybe be a John Sutton type player, Braithen Astor. If he grows into his body, he could possibly play back row 5'8". Back row lock. Maybe in the future, but right now, and as they see him going forward, he's a halfback. He's a bit of an unorthodox halfback, as you said. So I sort of can see where you're leaning here. They got Sexton, who's an ultimate game manager for them, and got him to the top of the ladder. Is Galvin coming in, who's not an out and out traditional 7? He's sort of got that ability to play a bit of both. I just spoke about the size of him. Rangy body, can potentially move into the back row lock maybe later in his career. That might hurt him. There might be a shift to the Dogs footy because they've taken out Sexton, who's obviously that play-for-play halfback and gives freedom to the other guys. But obviously Gus sees – it's Serraldo and Gus obviously see Galvin being able to suit the style that they want to play, or they wouldn't have got him. They wouldn't have gone that hard for him and caused this drama if they didn't see him playing that style of footy. Do you agree?
I agree and I disagree, obviously, because when a superstar like him comes on the market, you go after him. You want him, but obviously
as a half,
and that's a long term thing. That's a long term gain for the Dogs either way. There could be short term sacrifice, long term gain. Your greatest quote.
Yes.
But the sacrifice they may have to make is that. Well, there's talk, will he play off the bench maybe? Does Sexton hold his spot? Well, obviously there was talk Sexton was going to be dropped anyway.
So where's the latest with Sexton? Sorry to cut you off. It was the last I read
he's obviously disappointed. He's saying he's leaving. He won't be at the Dogs next year, so who knows where that will go. There'll be a domino effect from it all. I've spoke about plenty of different options around 6s and 7s that are off contract at the moment. Obviously you've got Adam Reynolds up at the Broncos. The Tigers are talking to him. Heath Mason played really well on the weekend. They've obviously got Fee now coming back from injury. The Titans are on the lookout for her half. Obviously, Sexton would be a great fit there. So would Adam Reynolds. If I was the Titans, like I said the other week, I would be throwing some money at Adam Reynolds so he didn't have to leave Queensland where he said he wants to stay to give him an option. There's so many different. You've seen on the weekend, the Raiders, they survived without Jamal Fogarty, and I was probably the biggest critic of that. Obviously, it's only one game, and he handled his task really well. But it puts.
Sorry to cut you off. No. Do you think, Galvin, when you're talking, I'm just thinking about the style that they play. Like, I don't think about the Dogs. You know, like you think about certain teams where if a certain half goes out, the whole ship falls apart, the whole ship sinks. I don't see the Dogs, even though Sexton's doing a really good job there, I don't see someone like a Galvin coming in going to make them worse. Like a Sexton's not that influential in that squad. No disrespect to him. I love what he's done this year. He's a great little player. But I don't think him coming out of the piece of the puzzle is like the be-all and end-all. And I believe that Gus and Ciro probably see that, or they wouldn't have made this choice. And by having...
Well, if Sexton chooses not to play and
Galvin goes in, they obviously see him playing. I feel like that they believe, and I do see this. I do see Galvin adding a bit more of an unorthodox style to them that they probably need. You think about Dogs, you spoke about it last week, about the balloon popping. And there's a potential that when they get to the big games, have they got the star power or the creativity to go with the top teams? I probably agree that they don't at this point, and they're building to that. Maybe Galvin in there now, with the way he runs the ball, he's still raw, but he does. He's a risk taker. He plays. He doesn't get affected by results. He's got more athleticism to his game than a Sexton. So maybe this is the edge that they need, and they see that, and maybe they realise, well, for the sake of dealing with, or for the cost of dealing with a Sexton being down a bit and feeling disappointed, and the team getting around Sexton, they know the upside of having Galvin there. That's the best case scenario.
There's definitely plenty of upsides, and we've seen them handle situations this year, the Dogs, when their halves have been out. Not Sexton, Burton, Bailey Hayward comes in and plays really well. And there's obviously talk about where his next position will be. But if you put the two together, Sexton, Lachlan Galvin, you can talk about things. Obviously, Sexton kicking game is probably better than Lachlan Galvin's. Ad-lib footy is obviously a tick to Galvin. The running game, tick to Galvin. So there's going to be so many different things, but the importance of an out-and-out 7 in the competition at the moment, I feel is vital. And Lachlan Galvin's not an out-and-out 7 yet. Obviously, he's got a lot of development to do, and they'll work on that if that's the way they see him. If someone asks me a question, is Lachlan Galvin got the potential to be a number 7? Of course he does. Just because he's a big body doesn't mean he can't wear number 7. He has to develop a lot. He has to change some of the ways he plays. He's a think-run first player. When you wear the number 7, you have to think about other options, kick, pass, who you put in the position to set up the play. Your talk's got to go from not just one side of the ruck. It's got to go from the whole system of the team. But also, they've got to have belief in the things you're saying, and that's where Sexton's been. He's like a traffic cop. He wears the vest like a traffic cop, the stop and go. He pushes in positions, sets them up to know when to pull the trigger. And then obviously other guys pull the trigger where Lockie, if he can do that and do that really well, he is then his own trigger because he's got that threat. He's ad-lib football and he's strong. He can get through the other line defence, and when he's through the other side, he can make things happen. So it's a positive from both ends. But like we said, this has all come about because Lachlan Galvin spoke on 100% footy, and I believe it was a masterstroke from both the club and player to come out and put it to bed, because after we speak about this today, after other people speak about it, obviously the media is the main part, it's dead and buried. We move on. We watch the kid flourish as a footballer. Obviously, like anything, everyone's going to be sitting waiting back. If the Dogs lose, there'll be pressure. If they win, it'll be on the back of Lachlan Galvin. So things like that will always happen. That's rugby league, and that's why dribblers like us can have conversations to talk about shit week in, week out.
Do you see him wearing 7 on the weekend, Toddy?
I believe so, but the thing is, as we know, Gus is a great communicator and a great dictator, and obviously of our game. He's the godfather, like I said, and I've got the utmost respect for Gus. He's a great person. I nearly went to the Panthers in 2009, I think it was, or whenever it was, to be under Gus when we just had that plan. So I understand the way Gus works. So the Dogs could turn around and put him in number 14, but he starts at 7, or he might wear number 6 and Burton will wear number 7. It could be something like that to take the talk away and the pressure off. But at the end of the day, they've picked up a handy rugby league player. And as Gus said, what Gus said about Lachlan Galvin a few weeks ago, that he's the best young talent he's seen in a long time, he's probably right. And he will have a long career and a great career, better than a lot of us. So it's the world's his oyster, and the game of rugby league is a long way finished for him.
I'm excited for it. I think it's a great move. The more you're talking and the more I'm like letting it sink in, I think he's the edge for him. I really do. As much as I think Sexton's done a really good job and love him as a player, and he's going to be a handy addition to another side if he chooses to leave, I think it's a no-brainer. And I think it can be the edge for them this year. The interesting one I saw, though, just talking, being a negative prick for 2 minutes, because this game's full of gossip and drama. I heard some of the journos just on a million podcasts getting around at the moment. I think it was Reedy or someone, or it might have been Buzz. Buzz is always stirring the pot. But he spoke about, is he going to be up for a bit of a battle with the Dogs' Penrith influence of Crichton, and who's the other lads there they got?
What battle?
But all those, the battle that's... they're good mates with Jerome. So he's trying to say that it was just a little...
Do you reckon they care about it?
I just wanted to bring it up because it was just I popped up and there was just a chat. They were going back and forth for 5 minutes saying that there could be a drama because he won't be accepted because they're all mates with Jerome. It's a shit talk, but it's worth a topic.
Yeah, that's just dribblers trying to find a topic. They've got nothing else to talk to because they can't talk sense about rugby league and the actual game.
Well, stop listening to their podcast, everyone, and start listening to ours more because we speak substance.
All right, we are here to talk about round 13 review. And our first game of the last weekend was the Dragons 20 over the Newcastle Knights 6. This was a game that we sat here with, like, it's not so long ago we sit here and we talk about it. Obviously, we'll get to it later. Your cheddar won, mine lost. So I'm still in front. So just say cut the yahoos because I'm still in front. But this was a game we spoke about. Obviously, we spoke about Dragons inconsistent, Newcastle inconsistent, but we've seen Dragons develop. But the way the Knights performed, obviously leading into Origin, obviously without KP didn't play for this game. And they went with that same team. But the Dragons, they continue to find a way, and it's on the back of obviously their grunt, obviously their signings over the off-season and stuff like that in Gutho. He's leading the ship, steering, controlling, obviously from the back. He's just his influence, he's so powerful. But then on the weekend, I thought their players stood up. Obviously, there's always been speculation about how Kyle will go. I feel the combination of him and the young King Tonga is starting to develop. I called for, what's his name? The Heart. I've just had Ilias. A big mind. Yeah, I called Phillies the other week to come back into the fray because I thought they needed that. But on the weekend it showed they didn't. So that's the thing we always talk about the Dragons, the up and down footy. But it's been great. The footy was good. Where did you see it, and what did you think of it? Because my eyes were glued on the Knights to how they were going to play.
Yeah, I don't want to keep being negative about the Knights. Get to them after speak about Dragons. They were really poor, but I thought Dragons. It was their senior players again with Cookie, Gutho, and Valentine Holmes. Talk about players backing up from Origin. I left his name out at the start. He was huge again. Goal kicking, just a class on that left edge. Double pumps, Toddy. There's a couple of double pumps. We love a 6 and 7. Kyle got his nice little one there for Jaden Sewer early. Nate Cleary had a couple of double pumps on the weekend. We'll get
it's
to
the
later,
year of the double pump.
The double pumps come back. The double pump. I don't think it ever left. It's just been rediscovered.
You know what I liked about Kyle's double pump? Obviously, it was off the back of a quick play of the ball, and as halves, when you got a quick play of the ball, you know you can get over the advantage line. But he got over the advantage line, and his double pump actually created him to have more space because it made the outside defender sit because they thought he was going to play longer out the back. So he double pumped quite early and then continued to go forward then to create more space for himself because usually he could double pump and dummy. But that time, obviously, that opened up for him to pass. But his double pump was on the back of him just going direct into a passage of, like, he probably thought run straight away. And it'd be interesting to see, obviously we're not going to get him on here, but the thoughts of what he was thinking in his situation. Because a lot of the time you see him going to the line thinking about so many other options. But this time he knew he had space in front of him because, one, he got over the ad line, but two, he didn't have any other thing than playing short or running himself, I thought. So it was really good. And, yes, the double pump is back.
Yeah, and as you said, you just went into detail about the double pump. Obviously, we love the double pump. And when we were educated coming through, the double pump's about sitting the defence on their feet, isn't it? Putting them in two minds so that it's like a boxer throwing a fake jab. You're sitting someone so that you can finish them off with the next one, because I'm a mad fighter.
Here we go. Here it is.
But that's the idea of a double pump, isn't it? And you're seeing Nathan Cleary just take it to a whole nother level with his tempo, and it's the art of being a good ball player, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's about sitting the defenders in front of you on their heels so that you can create tries or assists or space on the outside. But yeah, it's funny about Flano, without going into too much detail about him. He comes up with some really, really good stuff sometimes. I just feel like he's still at that period of his career. He's still trying to work out who he is, what his game is. You know, he's obviously he's not the most creative halfback in the world. He's a good competitor and he plays, but every now and then you see this really little freaky things out of him. You know, and I wouldn't say the double pump was freaky, but he comes up with some really good ad-lib footy. He'll come up with a really nice pass, but it's just a bit hit and miss for Flano. So still can't work out exactly what his best game is. I think he's a player that we keep speaking about, and you just spoke about Ilias coming back in. He needs a really, really solid or elite player outside him, I think. He's that type of guy where he can do a really steady job for you. There's a bit of pressure on his shoulders, which makes it a bit heavy for him sometimes. But
I also believe too that when he gets that elite player outside him, it sort of takes away from his game. I like where he's developing. Obviously, when you speak about the Flanagans, obviously he's a competitor. He's fit as everything that he does, and that was a big reason why Shane wanted him at the club, was to drive those standards away from footy with the effort areas of training. And he's that leader. You can see he's got his presence when they win. He's up and obviously at everyone. But when they lose, it sort of falls a bit on him. But I think the beauty of what is happening this year for him at the Dragons is that, one, he's got support of his dad, which is the coach. I believe if he was at another club and he's up and down inconsistent footy, he would have been dropped or would have been put in reserve grade then to come back and work on his game. But he's had enough time to work on his game, but players around him this time around, in Gutho, Cook, Valentine Holmes, players that are helping him, one, develop, but also get wins. They're not losing. So the pressure's not going to fall on him. They lose, they win, they lose, they win. So it's actually a good part of his development, his game. And I think he'll look back on this year and years to come and go, wow, 2025 was a year of my development because I actually got to work on my game as a half in first grade week to week, other than, okay, I've been poor in a couple of weeks. I've been pushed back to reserve grade and never found my way back. Someone else comes in and does a better job or a different job than what I expected, which has happened at other clubs for him. But now he's got the support of his dad and the other players around him helping him and complementing his game. He's getting development, but time in first grade. And more time playing first grade is more time working out what you need to work out, because you can go back to reserve grade and be the best player in the world and get 100 touches and come up some big plays. But it doesn't warrant anything because you're not doing it in first grade. But he is doing it in first grade. But as you just sort of touched on, he's not doing the big things enough. But I believe Kyle will be a long-time first-grade player and he'll get better as years go. I reckon he'll age really good.
He's got that body, doesn't he?
Yeah. You can see in him he's obviously looks after himself. He's obviously would pride himself in his appearance and his fitness and things like that away from footy, which is his dad was. And that's the big sort of thing you speak about is Shane of what he does to groups of teams. He gets them ready to play footy, and I'm sure his son would live that standard away from footy. So I believe in years to come, we'll see better and better football from Kyle. So,
what are the Dragons coming on the ladder at the moment?
8th.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I've been their biggest supporters all year. And I want to bring that back up because I stuck staunch. I spoke about it at the start of the year that I saw a change, and I could see that the influence of Flano was rubbing off on them, and they've been a bit down for probably the last 6 weeks, or not really sort of grabbed anyone's attention. But as you just said, they're in the top 8. They're in the top 8. I actually predicted them. I think at the start of the year, if they get their shit together, that they're a chance of making the 8. Because I see this. I see their senior players that they've recruited. They were huge. Gutho, that try Gutho scored, he had 2 or 3 touches leading up to that try, and then he pushes on to Bellin to get the try off us at the end. But he creates the momentum for his team. You speak about teams when they're in a hole. You want your leaders mostly through effort areas of kick chase, support, little talk, small talk conversations are so vital in teams, isn't it? Getting the players that are fatigued through the sets. And that comes from your halves, support players and leaders. I reckon no one does it better than Gutho. The little moments, and as fans and footy nerds and rugby league fans, you probably don't see all those sort of things. But as players, we know more than anyone. You value those little conversations. And all over before games, after games, interviews, he's just always constantly about his teammates, pumping them up. He's the fittest player on the field. And then in arm wrestles, he's always in the little moments, always pushing up someone's ass for an offload and he gets these rewards. And it's not the first time he's got tries off supports. He's had a couple of games this year. I think it was the Broncos game recently where he dragged his team over the line with 2 tries. He had another solo match that he dominated earlier in the year. So he just does it week after week. And that influence, some of these teams lower in the comp could do with the Gutho. Titans could do with the Gutho. These teams that they day in, day out, that they're one of their best players leads the intensity. I love him. He's a great player.
Oh, he's a great player, and he's been the difference for the Dragons in their wins and losses. He's been in everything. He's been a masterstroke and a breath of fresh air for him at the back because, as you just said, he speaks obviously when he's in defence. He's obviously the loudest talker at the back. He's pushing his players around the field. But he'd start all the sets of the talk. He'd be telling them where they got to get to, and then everyone would be echoing that. But he would have been pushing that presence on that team the whole preseason, as you said. The images of him at the start of preseason out in front winning, like you've got an aged player doing that. That builds respect and gains respect straight away, and it just gets younger blokes to go, shit, if he's doing it, I can do it, and that's what it's shown. And they'll continue to get better as long as they get more players to buy into that, and they'll get better, and we'll start seeing Dragons instead of toiling around the top 8. They'll be a team that will push up into greater positions in the ladder as time goes on.
I think the Knights, Toddy, geez, they're in a world of hurt. I just feel like with the Knights, and I know I played there, and I do. I like the club. I respect the club, but it's just hard it's hard to be positive about the Knights, and that's not being too harsh. It's not being too harsh on them. If anything, we're trying to find positives, but once again, they just offered absolutely nothing in attack. Especially the thing that was disappointing for me was for the Knights. Like they had Joy the week before, and I know KP's not playing, but the amount of times that they just tried to recreate the play with Dylan Lucas that they were doing the week before. I know that they're going in with a simple plan. Gamble's a sort of player that needs sort of simple instructions, but just the lack of creativity there. Like Dylan Lucas, the Dragons defended their key players really well, but they just had 2 or 3 players defenders on Dylan Lucas every time he got the ball, which is respect to him. But you got to have more strings to your bow. You have Gagai out there on the right who hardly touches the ball. I know once again KP wasn't playing. Their only try comes off Kai Pearce-Paul off a bit of I think it was Leo Thompson skips across and plays short to him. Like there's no building blocks at the Knights at the moment.
So when you
From
say
one
that,
week, we see some we see glimpses of some good footy, and then it just goes back to just absolutely baby steps again.
Yeah. So when you say obviously they double D defended on Dylan Lucas really well, and where the week before they played very direct and had time to get into that position to put him through the hole or him just brute strength. But if they've got so many defenders around it means there's a weakness somewhere else, yeah? So that means that they're not identifying that and going away from their set structure of trying to use him, which you should use him because he's a threat. But if he's a threat and there's 3 defenders in front, he doesn't become a threat. That means there's space somewhere else that they need to be attacking, and it just didn't seem that they changed on the run. And that's what you said, that they find that difficult to when teams understand the footy they play. They don't sort of have anything other than a default shape, and that's sometimes just give the ball to Fletcher Sharp. And usually it's KP, do your best, son. We'll be on the back here. And that's where that's the lack of scoring points for Newcastle, I believe.
Yeah. And you see it with the lower sides, even on the weekend. Like the best sides is push and support. pushing for your mate, and that creates momentum. Where the bottom sides, it's very much one out. Set up, trying to score off this play and that play. Defenses are too good these days, and it's a fair bit of that in the Broncos that we'll get to a bit later. We spoke about them, how clunky they are, but yeah, it's a support play and push. It's everything.
Our next game was Melbourne Storm 28 over the Titans 16 up here in the Gold Coast. And this was a slow starting game for me. Both teams were sort of trying to find their groove on a wet afternoon here on the Gold Coast. So they could have been excused for the lack of footy they were playing. But I thought the Titans dug deep early, didn't put so much pressure on. Obviously, as someone sitting there waiting, watching, obviously your cheddar, you would have been sitting there waiting, going, okay, when's the Storm going to pull the trigger and start scoring some points? And they started to do that on the back of momentum, on the back of some sort of individual brilliance. The intercept sort of broke the game apart.
Anderson, two tries.
He's been great for them. Obviously, he's off to the Broncos next year. But that individual brilliance, which is when you talk about individual brilliance, you'd say, Munster, Hughes, Pappenhausen, like that. But it was Grant Anderson takes the intercept and sort of comes away with, one, a try, but also the change of momentum. We speak about momentum so much that it just put the Titans to the sword in the end. And when they get put to the sword, it seems like that, like I said with you, when we have a fight, it would be wave the white flag and game's over. And that's what I feel. They just sort of not give up, because I would never say someone gives up, but it just becomes, the mountain becomes too high to climb for them, and they go away from their footy.
Yeah, I'll fight you soon. I'm looking forward to that. Reboot fight night. Get back to that soon. No, I don't want to fight you. We'll both fight on the night, but we'll fight someone else. Okay.
Call someone out
after your walk.
Yeah.
Up soon. But yeah, mate, Melbourne it was a funny one until Anderson got that intercept. The Titans were a chance of coming back, which from the course of the game watching, Melbourne were a 50 times better team. Like, in every way. You sort of expected that. But yeah, obviously Failonga, I think, got 2 tries. Anderson got 2 tries. Munster, I thought, played well on his return. Pappenhausen showed plenty of spark. But yeah, Melbourne's that foot on the throat mentality. They play really well against sides that they're sort of like the top 4 sides. You back Melbourne all day. But there's times there against the lower sides when it's sort of, there's a bit of looseness in their game that they probably haven't had before, I reckon. To an extent, which is a bit on their halves, I think. Obviously, they get pretty consistent footy across the park, our outside backs, and their middles seem to do a similar job on repeat week after week. And they're always pretty steely in defence. Yeah, every now and then they'll have a bit of an off day, but it's probably a bit more on the halves. And we give them the highest of compliments. I think they got the best spine in the comp.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's probably a little bit of foot on the throat mentality that you'd think Bellamy's probably a bit off them about. I'd say that their video sessions are highlighting a few things where they're just giving the opposition a sniff, and that's what they did on the weekend again. Titans were way off. For me, the Titans weren't even in the fight. Well, they found a way to get in the fight, but as far as looking at the 2 sides, I was surprised when they found their way back into it. But yeah, Melbourne, I think obviously this origin period is big for them, players in and out. They're going to have fatigued bodies, so the next 6 weeks is going to be a challenge. They'll keep winning, got no doubt. But yeah, to win the comp again this year, and for me, they're still the favourites. It's theirs to lose. They need to tidy up a few of those little bit of looseness that's in their footy against sides that they're expected to win. But I've played in great sides, and so have you, and the teams we've played together. When you've got such a good side, sometimes you subconsciously take the opposition lightly, and it's a wrong mentality. Yeah. We haven't seen the best of them. The repeat premiership winners, your Slaters, Cooper Cronks, Cameron Smith, they rarely did that. So full credit to them. That's why they were champions. They won. They won year after year after year. Nave Cleary's managed to not let that affect his form and his team over there. But in Melbourne, we haven't seen it, but there's just a little bit of it. So hopefully they can tidy that up, because for me, they're still the premiership favourites. And they were too good again. But Titans, yeah, there's not much. I still can't see much light there. How much longer has Desi got there, you think? I know, without being too negative. Well, about the Titans. Is there change coming?
Well, that would have to come up to the Titans and the board if there's change coming. One, he'd have to get paid out a significant amount of money because I think he went there in big money. He's got a clause in his contract if they don't play finals, which at the moment they're bucklers of doing. But I think for me, is that obviously if you're someone at the Titans, and I work there in their pathways and stuff like that, I think if you see improvement week in, week out, you could stick with Desi, but then you've got to, at the end of the day, rugby league's a results-driven business, and it is a business. It comes down to the winning on the field in the 80 minutes. They don't look at what goes on behind the scenes. So I think there's so much to go into as a coach, and as you would know, and obviously people that are in the game now trying to discover who the next best coach is, and they talk about obviously Mal going to the Bears and things like that. But there's a lot of help from the background. I think for the Titans, there's parts of improvement, but I don't know. Like it's a hard one. Is it roster? Like obviously they've been up and down in their halves. They've swapped and changed. Obviously their star fullback Keanu Kinney, which they've got some positive news this week that he's re-signed till 2028. Obviously Kieran, their star signing or their main signing over the last few years, and out and out leader in Kieran. He's been out for a long period of time. Tino comes back from an ACL injury, so there's obviously one, he's playing really good football, but there's obviously also doubt about that. Their $1 million man David Fafita's not playing. So there's so many things to take into account that if you have a fully fit Titans team week in, week out, barring any injuries and stuff like that, you get a better consistent team and you can gauge that. So I think at the moment, Desi's had an unfair run at it. It's been, like I just said before, it's been an uphill battle, not just as a coach, but as a man manager with players in your team, your leaders, things like that. So there's been so much pressure because it's a results-driven sport. And the Titans, they've been up and down, inconsistent for a long time now, but it always falls on the coach. And I always hate that things always fall on the coach. I think they signed him for a reason to get change. Yes, they haven't got so much change in their results, but I think if you're a board or someone at a club, you've got to go back in beyond the closed doors of the 80 minutes of footy and see what he's done. And if he hasn't changed anything there, which I don't know because I'm not there enough, but if I look at their pathway system, there's some really good kids coming through. I speak highly of Zane Harrison, a young kid that probably won't get an opportunity this year because the way the game is, and you give him time to develop in the lower grades. But you've got to look on what's going behind and what's to come, because if there's nothing to come, they'll go get a new coach and there'll be no change. So they're just wasting money. They're just throwing money out the top of a cliff and letting it flow into someone else because they have to do change. So
it's so true what you're saying about coaching. It's what we spoke about Jimmy Maloney a while back, talking about regurgitating the same coaching. And it's so funny what you say there because it is. It's easy to sit there and blame a coach and say, get rid of him, bring someone else in. But what are they bringing different than what you've already got? And like you said, sometimes a new voice is effective. Sometimes a new attacking system can be effective. As you just said then, you're a bit deeper in the pathways understanding than I am, that obviously working there. But, how does that look? Has the coach got any idea and all that sort of stuff? There's so much to it, isn't there? It's a good topic. But
there's so many things to go into. Like you talk about Madge Maguire, he's had success everywhere he's been, and he's gone to a club on paper is probably one of the better teams in the competition on paper, but it's not transferring from the training paddock to that 80 minutes. And we're only judged on the 80 minutes. We don't see what goes on beyond closed doors and how they're working and what they're doing. So it's hard to judge sometimes, but at the end of the day, it always falls on the coach or sometimes individual senior players. And at the moment, it's more coaches. So it's a shit position to be in if you're a coach and your team's not going well.
You're not going to beat 30 blokes in the top 30 when you're on your own, are you? If they're against you, 30 on one.
Well, our next game was the Cowboys 32 over the West Tigers 28. who the West Tigers come home with a wet sail. The Cowboys were out cruising along. We speak about players backing up from Origin, and a lot of players, they pride themselves on that next game after Origin. Tommy Deard and Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys were special. They were the difference in big moments. They were the difference in the start of the domination of the early part of the game, of how they got out to lead the Cowboys. Jackson Purdue was really good again. Drinky at the back. The whole team for the Cowboys was outstanding, but it just seems like they had the mad cow in the back of their head. They're about to go dance their feet off and get $2 drinks or whatever you get at the Mad Cow.
Ooh, and is that still going, Mad Cow?
I don't know. I do not know. But what we do know is that the Tigers, they come home with a wet sail, and it was such good footy to watch, because it's Benji Marshall footy. The shackles come off and they throw footy out of there. You know what? They weren't throwing it out of their arse. They were moving it really well, but controlled, but obviously then taking a risk here and there. And it was just, they're big players. Obviously, Jerome Luai, Buller at the back. He was just finding space, starting their sets, and they made a break off the kickoff, a long pass from Heath Mason. From Luai hits Mason. Mason goes in and passes, and he goes through the line. Sorry, Terrell made
a good game, Mason. 40-20, I think he kicked as well.
Yeah, he was good. He showed some positive signs. And
where's he from? Is he Tigers junior? Or is he just is he?
He's
he
a Tigers junior. I think he's been in the system. Beyond obviously years now of obviously Lachlan Galvin and Fee now they've got in waiting in the wings with injury, but he done his
half.
Yeah, he done really well. I thought who Mason?
He come on hooker, didn't he?
Started 6.
No, but he kicked out that 40-20. He kicked out a dummy half. That's right.
It doesn't mean he's hooker if he kicks out a dummy half. I kick fucking 400 40-20s from hooker.
You love the dummy half 40-20.
Yeah, well, it's an easy one.
It was good. Buller was great. Stafford Toller. Jeez, he played well.
Yeah,
he's been great for the Tigers.
He's been a shining light for the Tigers.
He's a bit of a Benji type of guy. You can sort of see that the players Benji likes, they're like little clones of Benji, aren't they? The way they're stepping and a couple of their movements. It's great to see, actually, because you love seeing, when you get a coach like a Benji, you want to see, we just spoke about Des and influencer coaches and what they bring. You want to see the personality of the coach come out on the players. You know, you normally do. If you see a real hard bastard coach, they normally play with steel. You sort of imagine, if you said, what's a Benji team look like? It looks like what the team is. And I think it's great. The way that their roster is, they haven't got at this present moment, they haven't got the side to go with the top 4 sides on paper. They haven't got the names. They're playing the best style of footy you could possibly play. All right, we're not going to be physically as good as other teams in the top 4 in arm wrestle. Our defence isn't as good at the moment. We've got a young squad. But how do I get the best out of a young squad? Play eyes up footy, use our footwork, create one-on-ones, get our fast men the ball. And it's Benji all over. He's the best as a player, he was the best at creating space for opposition, for his teammates, and creating one-on-ones with footwork and speed. And he's coaching that. And I love watching it. And these other sides, like without harping on it, Newcastle, use the identity that suits the roster you got, because that's what the Tigers are doing. I think it's great coaching.
Play to your strengths, not other teams' weaknesses all the time or your deficiencies. Go to your strengths all the time, and you'll have better joy over and over again, because if you work on your strengths, over time you'll get better. I just want to touch on something you said there. You spoke about the Tigers, that they can't go with the big teams because they don't have the big-name players. Well, they're not going to get the big-name players over the years. But are we seeing a Tigers team? Because we spoke about it. There's no Tigers player really anymore that's had the dreaded wooden spoon tag. They're all new players, younger players. Is this just seeing what's years to come for the development of the Tigers, that it's a progression of getting better and better and better? So, yes, they may not compete and play finals this year, but over the next 3 years, we're going to get a better Tigers team, yeah?
Well, it's a bit of an identity. If you think Tigers, take out the 80s, the Tigers from pretty much when Tim Sheens was there. The Tigers, all the eras we played against Tigers and the good years that they had good years there, probably mid-2000s, didn't they? Sort of
2005 they won the comp.
2005 they won the comp, and probably the 10 years after that, the Tigers were really good. Were they a Roosters pack where they'd arm wrestle and bash fuck out of you? Probably not. Were they a Melbourne resurgence? Probably not. But they always had that flamboyant style. So
I sort of feel from the back of Princey and Benji.
But I feel like that is the Tigers. And I know that's... can they change? Yeah, they can grow into a more steely side. But I love what Benji's doing here. It's a bit of the identity of the club, like it is. From ever since I've watched footy and when the era we came through, that's the style that the Tigers were good at. They were skillful. Their pathways, all the players from their 20s to first grade came through, had great skill, good footwork. They've always moulded the Islander players really well. They had that great connection with Kebra Sports up there where you work at. Or was it Kebra, wasn't it?
Kebra, yeah.
The Tigers. They've always had these really good Kiwi Islander kids coming out of their system. That's how I see the Tigers. So I think I love where they're going, and I think there's no doubt they need to develop the resilience in defence to be a top four side in the comp. But I think they'll get there, and I think it's great coaching. I think Benji's done an awesome job, and they're exciting to watch. And it's good just to watch a team that's squeezing the lemon with what they've got. And that's what they're doing and playing to what suits their
See, I don't agree with what you're saying there, squeezing the lemon with what they've got. I think they've got a roster that's developing.
But that's
just because they don't have
squeezing the lemon. They're not. I'm saying squeezing the lemon for where they're at. They're not I wouldn't say Melbourne's squeezing the lemon. Melbourne's it. They've got it. Squeezing the lemon for me is developing.
Okay.
You get.
Thank you.
Go get a lemon and squeeze it and see what I'm trying to say, bro.
Yeah, well, if you squeeze the lemon, juice comes out, yeah?
Yeah, and I want you to drink it and feel it. Feel the Tigers' energy.
Okay, feel the Tigers' energy. Next game.
Did the comeback come more from Tigers having a go, or did the Cowboys take the foot off a bit, do you think? What says more?
100%. I think about Mad Cow.
We're laughing about thinking about the Mad Cow.
Back-to-back games, he's going, get me out of here. I only on the piss.
It was a mind shift. It was a shift in their footy. They started playing footy. What's the word? Sort of unfazed.
Took the shackles off.
They took the shackles off. They moved the ball. Any team that moves the ball for kickoff, it means that they're chasing points. So they done it, and it worked.
That was a good play.
A point. And then they get belief from that. And when you get belief, you get all of a sudden you run a little bit harder, you find your front, and then you get quicker play the balls. And on the back of quick play the balls momentum, blokes like Jerome Luai, Buller, Api Coruscant, that's their footy. They love that. But that's the question mark all the time is when you don't have that joy of a quick play the ball momentum, ad-lib footy, what's their DNA? Can they go with the good teams? And that's what Mitch is obviously talking about. So one, maybe, the Cows had their head on their mind in another place. But at the end of the day, you've got to give credit where credit's due to the Tigers, the footy they played. They should have nearly won the game. If it had a couple more minutes to go in that game, we're talking about a Tigers win here. So a lapse in concentration for the Cowboys or a tick to the Tigers. I'm giving a tick to the Tigers. And that would be a big concern for the Cowboys this week going into their game, is that teams will look at that and go, okay, how did they find that momentum to get there? How did they, one, hold it? But two, can we redo what the Tigers done in parts of our game? Because if we can do that, find the quick play the ball, play on a bit of momentum, it shows that the Cowboys can't defend that way.
Who got the opposite, would you, Mitch? Do you think there was more so the Cows taking their pressure off?
I think Cowboys probably took the foot off the pedal, but it's a credit to the Tigers that they played unorthodox. They earned their points. Like that play off the kickoff's unorthodox. You're not just hoping that the Cowboys fell apart. So I think the Cowboys fell asleep a little bit because of the big lead, but I think the Tigers
took advantage.
They created the holes in the defence. Like that try off the break off the kickoff. Terrell May tips on to Buller, was it? Or whoever it was on the right.
Tips on to Mason.
To Mason, sorry, when they make the big break. That's coming out of the box asking questions of the defence and then switching the momentum by playing the right style of footy. You're not going to swing momentum in this game by just taking hit-ups and getting to a kick and box kicking it. You've got to ask questions of the defence, create one-on-ones, bodies in motion, and then all of a sudden the tidal wave momentum comes. So, yeah, the Cows probably were smoking, ready to go to mad cow, but the Tigers created the momentum. I love watching the Tigers play. They've been awesome this year.
Last one before we move off this game would be, do you think Terrell May is still putting his hand up for an Origin jersey? If, at the very least, did he do that in this game?
Of course he does. He does it every week. But as we speak about the game of rugby league, and I love it that it comes this way, where there's smoke the fire. As soon as all the games finished from the weekend, we heard that Mitch Barnett was one, obviously question marks. Now we know that he's out with an ACL. A bloke's name come up that hadn't been coming up for the whole year. Keon Koloamatangi is now the man to take his spot. So he's jumped Stefan Terrell May.
Who was the journo? Who was the journo straight out of
it was a Matty Johns show that I seen parts of it. But now in the papers, in days now since Barnett's been done, they're talking about Keon Koloamatangi, who's been really good for South, for Rabbits. So for your question, what you want to ask, Gabe? No, I don't think he gets picked.
I appreciate you reading between the lines.
I agree with that. I agree with Toddy.
I'd love to see him get picked. I think it would be a great reward for what he's done for the Tigers. But also there's a reward for the way Keon Koloamatangi's going for the Rabbits. He's been outstanding for him. He's playing big minutes in the middle. He's doing a really good job. But I don't know. You look at that. Is he the answer moving forward for New South Wales as time goes on? The development, he's been there before, where Terrell May hasn't. Terrell May's probably got a lot longer in footy than him. Then I don't know. It's not my job to do. Laurie questioned that. Everyone questioned Laurie before, and he's come out and got a win. So as long as we continue to win, no one will question it.
It doesn't feel like a make or break decision. At least right now, does it?
No, not at the moment because we're winning.
Well, there's even talk about Olakau'atu. Look at him play. I don't know where you play him, if you play him in the middle, but look at him on the weekend.
There's so much questions around it, but at the end of the day, it's not do or die for New South Wales because we're in such a healthy position because we look at those players and go, okay, this is the luxury we've got to pick from. Where Queensland at the moment, their next option is obviously Horsburgh, who's going great, but then after that, it's who knows? They don't have many options. Trevor Gilmeister, there you go. Well, next game, the Manly Sea Eagles 34 beat the Brisbane Broncos 6. And this was a Manly team without Trebojevic brothers, Tom End, Jake, Jason Saab, Trent, Aloiai gets injured after 10 minutes. Lockie Croker plays only 15 minutes. This was a game that I had penciled in for the Broncos. Was Nelly going to be my cheddar of the week last week? Coming off a bye, pressure on him, heaped against him. Haven't played at 4 Pines Park in Manly for a long time. After Origin, we're pretty unaffected. Obviously, they knew they'd get them players back. They weren't in the fight. It was disappointing to watch, but also we did speak about at the start players coming back from Origin. DCE was the out-and-out best 7 of the weekend because his kicking game. He just kicked him to death. He was in everything, but he had 16 other troops around him doing their job and doing it really well. Leo Hopewadi was outstanding at the back. Cola, Brooks. They just had a spring in their set, and they sort of probably would have had that mentality. Let's get into these blokes early, and they'll turn over, and they did. They turned over and gave Manly their win.
Totally agree. Thought Cherry was awesome. We always say players halves coming back from Origin. The game's a lot slower. He's been in camp all week with the elites, and he played like that. He looked 2 steps ahead. He's kicking game, a couple of tries off grubbers for his teammates. But, yeah, his whole game was complete. Olakawadu was awesome. Hopper's just outstanding on that left edge, especially linking up with Kohler. I love Kohler as a player too. But, yeah, Broncos just looked flat. They just had just everything we spoke about before, those teams that are playing well, playing for each other. They push for each other. They have sequence play for plays. At the moment, I look at it, it's a common trend with teams that are struggling, and went on to it a bit before, but isolation off the field and negative energy and being in your head and whinging about the coach and this thing and this, we've been there. This isn't judging. We've been in these situations, good and bad. You transfer that onto the field, and how do you play? You play as individuals, and I've done it. You've done it. We've all done it, and that's how they look and how they shift that. It needs to happen soon. They got Adam Reynolds 300 this weekend. Congratulations, Reno. There might be a coffee meeting that we had with you coming out this week, which we're excited about. But, yeah, really happy for you, Reno. But they need to find something. Is Reno the motivation for him next week for 300 games? He's just having the shame of losing every week enough. But, yeah, at the moment, they just look isolated.
Yeah, very isolated. And you speak on that.
All year.
Reno's 300s against Gold Coast Titans is a massive game. Obviously, the Titans
they have to win.
They have to win. If they don't win, the pressure is going to become on a whole lot more because they need to beat the Titans. Obviously, the Titans will be going there for an upset. They need to win themselves. But there's obviously all this speculation about their coach that they've worked too hard in the preseason, things like that. That's just bullshit. The time comes that playing group needs to sit together and go, okay, we're the players out there, we're the group that needs to change it. No one else can change it. It's not going to change overnight, but it needs to change from either it's Monday through to Sunday when they play or whatever it is, but it needs to change really quick. Because
the thing where the players can't hide, and we've been in this situation before as players, but the thing is, the highlight is even more on the players now because the Kevy was the excuse. Now it's Madge is the reason. Like, you're not going to get any harder than Madge or any what they perceived or what the talk was, that it was too soft with Kevy. That was the talk. We don't know. I've never been under them. But they're not going to get any different result from just complaining about the coach. Like, they've had the 2 different experiences and they're still getting the same results. So it's clearly player-driven. Yeah.
Well, it comes down to player-driven. I commentated this game the other night, and obviously you got to sit and watch it closely. They just didn't do the small things right. They didn't find ways to get momentum. And I'm just sitting a bloke that sits in the chair and watches footy now. If I was a player, I would work out how I get momentum and gain momentum, but then also keep it. That's the game around. You've got to get through your sets, and you've got to be calculated in when you offload and when you pass. That's one part of it, because you come up with an error, you lose momentum. But then it's also when you kick. On the weekend, DC showed Broncos how to do it. He kicked and found momentum from his kicks, kicked the space, didn't kick the bodies. And he kicked early, so it was a risk. Obviously, his team had to work harder on that kick chase. But every time he kicked, their kick chase was strong. When the Broncos were there and they'd kick early, they'd have 2 or 3 blokes chasing down. And those 2 or 3 blokes was Pat Carrigan and Payne Haas, 2 blokes that played Origin, 2 front rowers that played big minutes. So it shows there's a players in that other group that if Payne Haas and Pat Carrigan are the fastest players in the team, then they're getting down there to make the chase. No, they're not the fastest player, and they're not the fittest, maybe the fittest players, but it shows that they're willing to work and get down there and change a result. There's other players in the team that aren't. They're sitting back having a cigar and thinking it's going to happen because they've got a good team on paper. But the question is holding momentum.
They're getting that. It's weird that they're getting that response. Like, you speak about coaches. Trent Barrett's played with him and respect the guy immensely as a coach, and all reports he's great at sequences and attacking structures. That's what he's great at. You've got Madge, who's won several comps at all different cultures, Kiwis, Origin, South, Wigan, and everyone loves him. So I don't understand if you're getting that, you can't blame that. You can't blame that as the reason I'm not kick chasing. You can't blame that for the reason I'm not pushing for my mates and support.
They've got Benny Tia there, a great coach, and someone that's done it for the club for years on years, and then went and had success at other places. So they're getting the right education and the right coaching. It's just not transforming onto the field, and yeah, so it's $1 million debate of what's going on. But at the end of the day, the only thing that can fix it is the team. And the team needs to fix that this weekend for Renault's 300s. They need to show them that respect to go out there and do that. Otherwise, the pressure and the doors will just become closed and they'll just keep closing on them. But for me, Manly was just whoever played Manly on the weekend was up for a tough game because they were ready to play footy. They obviously knew that the brothers were out, Tommy and Jake, so they mustered together and they come as a group. And DCE was the glue in the middle of that, and Brooksy was the foil on the back of it. He controlled everything on his left side, right side, and they come up with big plays, and it all started from Hopper.
It's like the Garden of Eden for some of those players down there at Brookvale, Four Pines Park.
Well, they've lost plenty in the last few weeks, and they come out there and rewrite it.
Well there.
Yeah, they played really well.
They find an extra leg. The Garden of Eden.
Well, our next game was the Warriors 36 over the Rabbits. The Warriors continue to impress and come up with big moments, big plays. But the Bunnies, they fought hard on the back of Latrell Mitchell, I thought. Obviously, a big congratulations goes out to Alex Johnson, 3 tries on the weekend and surpasses over 200 tries. He's 12 off Kenny Irvine. So I'm sure if he continues this form, we'll see him become the greatest try scorer in rugby league history. So Alex Johnson, hats off to you, mate. It's an unbelievable effort. And when you look at history things and records and things like that, obviously many years ago we would have looked at it and go, oh, there'll be no one will ever get close to Ken Irvine. But you're becoming close and you will surpass it in your rugby league career. Will another player ever catch that, Mitch?
It's quite unbelievable, isn't it? Because when you think about, Kevin Irvine, we never got to grow up watching him play, but, you hear like those legend names, Johnny Raper, Billy Smith, all these legends in that era, then you Wallies and Mal Meningas. But I don't think Alex Johnson, for an example, is a name that's notorious as a regular rep player and this and that. But what a huge achievement, and it's pretty amazing that someone who kind of flies under the radar is going to be potentially our greatest ever try scorer in the history of the game. For someone who doesn't really get much headlines, he's not really in the paper much, he's not really someone that is looked at as the high elite of the game. He is. He's an out-and-out try scorer, and he deserves every bit of respect. Does that make sense what I'm saying? You don't sort of 100%. See him as a, he's not a Lomax. He's not the spoke about Toho from Penrith. He's not, week after week, this big name.
Has he played any representative footy?
No. For PNG.
Oh, yeah, PNG.
But that's what I mean. And he's going to be potentially the greatest try scorer in the history of the game.
He'll be the greatest try scorer in history and will never be catched in my time anyway. I'll be in the wood basket by the time anyone catches him.
Don't plan that too soon.
Nah,
I won't be around for a bit longer.
Just a little bit.
I'll tell you what, even when he just got that intercept, that's when the floodgates opened up. It was like the perfect video.
Let's see it later, yeah.
It's like the magic moment on the day he breaks the 200. He just gets this graceful intercept.
Yeah, love
Tim.
that.
I can't wait to see his
perfect
213th try when he breaks the record.
Storm the field.
They'll be storming the field. Redford will be on fire. It'd be crazy.
He'll have a statue at the block.
Sure.
100%. But well done to the Warriors. They held out a fast finishing Bunnies team. Obviously, Luke Metcalf. But I just like the belief for the Warriors. Oh, Metcalf's fast.
How quick is Metcalf?
What the
hell?
Yeah, he's electric. But they're just playing with so much confidence, and that comes on the back of young bodies, young unfazed bodies that go into contact. Yeah, Halasima and that. They just go into contact. They're unfazed, but like I said, I think I said it a few weeks ago, these young kids obviously are coming through a really good system. and there's got to be a good system going on at the Warriors because all their juniors up near the top, they're winning week in, week out in the lower grade. So that means they're winning. They're coming from a winning culture into an also winning culture, but they're coming into the culture of up the wires. Their stardom over there would be so cool for them because they're getting packed house crowds. They're getting the fans on the back of them. They're getting some cool publicity over here in Australia when they come out. Obviously, during COVID, there was the up and down inconsistency. Then they go home and their fans are fighting for them. The chant of up the wires comes in. All the things that's going away from the game, but it's also they're reaping the benefits on the field because these young kids are coming through, one on a culture that's really cool, but also a winning culture and a new system that they've got over there. So they're coming from success into success where they've been inconsistent sometimes, but now they're finding this consistent footy because they're winning in there before they get into first grade, and they get into first grade and go, well, I've been winning in lower grades. I'm unfazed of who I'm playing against. As long as I go out and do my job and I come off the back fence. And that's what they're doing. Hallerseaman are unfazed by whoever they play.
It's a bit of Penrith, what you're touching on there. It's a bit like what the Mount Druitt area of Penrith, where they all came through and they were sort of invincible. They won all the juniors. They were better than every other team out west. It's a bit of that, like you just said, big Islander kids that aren't used to losing. You know, coming out of the Warriors system where they're not used to losing, and then now the NRL team, similar to Penrith, is a success. All they know is winning. So it's a scary thought, but it's a good thought because it's so good to see the Warriors winning. I'm happy for them just to take over the game because the bigger New Zealand is for our game, there'll probably be potentially another team there, and they've got the biggest product of players out of NZ. So it's a bit like when Penrith go well. There's no envy about those sides doing well because as a rugby league fan, we want all these areas to do well. Your Penriths and New Zealands, and I love watching them play.
What it shows for me is obviously at the end of last year when Johnson retires, there's obviously question marks on who takes over from Johnson and things like that. Round one, there was speculation of how the Warriors season is going to be. But what it does, it shows belief. It shows belief to younger kids that are coming through or clubs also that are losing their star halfback. It shows that if you give faith and you put time into someone like having Metcalf, that you'll reap the benefits of it. And they're playing very similar style of footy, but they're playing their own style of footy. It's on the back of obviously Metcalf's individual brilliance in some games, but blokes around him, Tavita Harris, Wade Egan, players like that, they're getting their own DNA and they're putting it into the sprinkling that onto a hard-running, relentless, ruthless Warriors pack, which obviously the Warriors are also known for. And then their outside backs are doing, look, Charles Nicoll-Klokstad ran over 340 metres on the weekend. When you think of that of the Warriors, you think about Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. That's what you think back in the day, the guy that was making all the metres. But now, obviously, Chance is his own player. But what Roger and him would come together, what Roger would give to him in confidence would also gain in truckloads for Chance because one is he probably was sitting back watching Roger coming through as a younger player and going, I want to be like him, has a similar step, things like that. So it's all complimenting coming back to him. And obviously Sean Johnson would be doing plenty of work at the Warriors behind the scenes away from the stuff he's doing. So you can see, and obviously they've got the great Stacey Jones and who's the coach?
Who's the coach? Meggsy. No, it was his brother. That's disrespectful, do we look?
It's not disrespectful because we speak about so many names and I think we do. Andrew Webster, that's it, yeah.
Webby, all respect.
We speak about so many names and you talk about all different things and I probably shouldn't just have the scores on my piece of paper like we don't have a rundown. We just come here and we obviously talk about what we think and how we feel and try and dissect it as best we can. We don't sit. That's the thing with us. We don't sit away from here for 3 hours and maybe some people say, yeah, you probably should because you get blokes' names wrong. Who gives us shit if you get blokes' names wrong? As long as we get out what we're trying.
Toddy. We suffer from ADHD. But
I don't want to go. I don't want to go away from here. I don't want to go away from here now and go premeditate what I'm going to say to you tomorrow about the round 14 games because That's not authentic
we
real.
Real here at 6 and 7s, don't we?
Yeah, it's not authentic real shit we talk about. Like the shit we've spoke about today, I don't even know what we spoke about.
Yeah.
Because it's come up in conversation that you wanted to talk about that I wanted to talk about.
I think it's honestly. I just think the word of the day. It is what it is, and it's beautiful, my friend.
I love it.
Everything's
You're passionate. I tell you what. You're not
beautiful.
far from being a father of a daughter. You're starting to get that authentic love feeling about you.
I'm getting a bit of empathy. Have some water, man. Clear that pout out in your mouth. What do you call it? Your palate. No, your palate. Your palate. Clear your palate out. Get the brain back clear. Andrew Webster, you are top 2 coach in the competition.
And our next game was the Penrith Panthers 18 over the Parramatta Eels 10. The Battle of the West, and it was an outstanding game. And I'm going to continue to talk about it. Players backing up from Origin. None better than Nathan Cleary. Big, massive moment, the 40-20 in the game. Goal kicking, obviously, out of Origin. They speak about
that last one.
Just comes out and just kicks. I think it's 3 from 3 in the end. Just ices moments.
Do you reckon Nate's to kick us at game 2?
Of course he will. He's not going to give someone else a job.
I don't think he will, and I'd back him all day.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't.
It's a conversation because they've got
they've got plenty of other
never
players.
misses.
Well, he missed an Origin the other night.
He normally never misses.
He kicked one falling over.
Yeah, but no.
Hey, there you go, Gabe. He never misses. Any games I watch, Parra, he hardly ever misses a kick. But
you asked me. It's a
conversation, brother.
Question. It's not a conversation because it's case closed. The GOAT's goal kicking next Wednesday night or whenever the game is. So you shut up again. The GOAT will be goal kicking. He's not going to give up. That's just like, okay, here you go. You can have the big bed. I'm not giving you my big bed when we walk into a room, am I?
You try and sleep with. You want to sleep with the boys.
Exactly. We slept together. You would walk in the room. This bloke would walk in the room, drop his clothes off, shirt off, walk around the nude, just sitting up in bed nude the whole time.
You like it?
I loved it.
That's the answer.
I loved it. That's why my bed never got slept in.
Yeah, exactly. Naked spoons. If you're not gay, it's sweet. You're comfortable with it. It's perfect.
Yeah, that's right.
There's nothing wrong with it.
But
connection.
This was a great game of footy, and it was the Panthers of old, some of their touches and some of the brilliance of the way they played. And I spoke about it the other week that I was sitting there thinking about the Panthers, and I had a look at the ladder before I jumped on. One of the things I did do a little bit of research, and they're on 11 points. So they've got
make it?
I've sort of put my Houdini cap on and rubbing the crystal ball. The back end of the year, they'll make it because they had that draw. So they'll jump a team. So instead
who's the competition at the moment? 9th, 10th. I know
they're on 14.
Yeah, but who?
9th and 10th is South Dolphins, and then after
so probably
Broncos.
South Dolphins that they'd be fighting out for. What are they?
No, there's a list underneath them that's above them, but they're on 11 points, so they're 3 points out of the top 8 at the moment. So what I'm saying is that they've got an uneven number. So the back end of the year, I reckon that 1 point the bye will be the difference. So like to come in the last round, that could be the top 8's 18, or say it won't be 18, say it's 20, and they'll be in their last game and they'll be on 19, and they'll jump bottom 8 by 21. So
you can't doubt a champion. We say it every week.
Mystic Mac could come right. So watch this space at the back end of the year.
They're too good. Like, how can they not? How can they not make the finals, eh? Like,
we can sit here and have a
series.
We can sit here and have a debate of how they won't. Obviously, it's going to have to come on the back of the blokes that we're not always talking about. They need to win in this Origin period, so they're going to be up against it because obviously they'll have more players going back in Origin camp next week. The teams will be picked this Sunday, so they'll hopefully get a win this weekend against the Tigers they've got. I'm not sure who they got during the Origin period, Gabriel.
I'll have a look. What I got here, though, is they would essentially need to win 8 of their next 13 games to be a shot.
They'll do that.
That's capable. Drop 5. That's very capable.
When's
when you look at the players they got.
So they got Tigers this weekend, and they'll miss that following weekend. They might have the bye, do they?
Warriors 21st of June.
And
so playing some good tempo, Nave Cleary. Wow.
Yeah, he's stopping and starting that tempo. We talk about the double pump, but he's got that knack at the moment. He's going.
He's like a ballet dancer, isn't he?
Like stopping and starting, sort of dictate defense. But also what I like about Nath at the moment is he's running the ball.
Looks so strong.
Yeah, he looks composed at the moment. Like just, I don't know. He's a well-oiled machine.
It was good to watch. Obviously, like two of the best, two halves coming back after Origin. Two teammates. I love watching it. Mitch played great too. Power actually blew a couple of tries. There was Mitch actually threw
even though they only scored the 10 points. Isaiah Yongi at the back, he's going to be a superstar.
He's a freak.
Who do you think the Tigers get as 6 moving forward? Who would you be going after? There's talk Sandon Smith.
Sandon Smith would be good. Is he gone? So is Cherry signed? He has to.
Well, I don't know. There's who knows. Obviously, on the weekend you'd be licking your lips of the way he played. But
I reckon the Tigers have a young fella. I can't remember who it is, but I think there's someone coming through that'll probably play at 6.
At the Tigers.
Yeah, I think so. I'll double.
So he'll leave Tigers and go to Para?
They need an elite player.
We're talking about Para here, Gabe.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I heard Tigers. My bad.
The Tigers the Tigers, if they're going to get, they need a Sandon Smith's a good shout if he leaves.
Yeah, well, who knows what happens. The game of rugby league, it's a roller coaster at the moment. We'll see. I reckon after the Origin period, the Roosters will announce DCEs again. Obviously, the big debate is if he'll be even picked in 2 Wednesdays' time. We'll have a chat about that after we finish these games. Our last game, which was my cheddar, which come up short. I can't believe I backed my bloody Canberra Raiders. Raiders 26 over the Sydney Roosters 24. And this was a game of, I don't know, it was a game of, I thought it was the game of the round again with the Raiders being in that game because how everyone's just waiting for them to drop and I was that person putting it on the Roosters. And Roosters had it for most parts of the game. They started like a bull out of gate, kicking to big Mark Nwinga Nase, whatever you say it is. He was good again. Obviously, everyone's fans, the Roosters fans, was on the edge of their seats seeing Joey Manu walk around the field with a Roosters hat on.
What's the go there?
I think it's just...
He's coming back, you reckon?
No, I don't know. I think he's signed at French Rugby, so I don't think he's going anywhere at the moment, but it definitely would have had the journos and the podcast idiots like us sort of working out what story they're going to talk about. But well done to the Canberra Raiders. They find a way to win again. It comes on the back of, one, their go forward. Joseph Tarpany was unbelievable again. Goes at him. Hudson Young, the Mule, Hosking, they just find a way to win. But their fullback, for me, was outstanding again. KO Weeks, big moment at the back end. They kick to him and he just slices through. And Ethan Strange scores next to the post and ices the game. Obviously, going to this game, the Raiders lose Jamal Fogarty, so we get a look to the future. A thing that I've spoken about on here a few times that with Jamal leaving, I thought they'd go backwards. Do I still have question marks on it? Yeah, I do, because it's only one game, obviously, to see more of a look at him. But if I'm on the weekend, I thought they complemented each other really well. Obviously, Ethan Strange is a right foot kicker. Sanders is a left foot, great goal kicker. So he done what he needed to do. Great kicking game. Found space, but also his box kicks. He had some height and he looked calm and collected, which was really good. They've obviously got a combination together from New South Wales 19s, and it showed the other night that they've played footy together. So it'd be interesting to see how this combination. But what it shows me is that the Raiders' future's bright.
Yeah, he's a smaller body too, isn't he? So hopefully physically he can aim up. But I spoke to his dad, actually, Ethan Strange's dad, when I was on the Central Coast a few months back now. and he was at the school when I was doing some stuff up there, and I was chatting to him about his son. He spoke about how they've played a lot of footy together. He said that he'd played a lot of footy and had a great relationship, and it came out on the field. So, yeah, great footy from them. Daniel Tupou, what about that? What was he doing?
I don't know.
Tubes, he's the best. I can love Tubes. What a player. He's such a good player. Another one like Alex Johnson, go through his whole career and all his teammates will know how good a player he is in the game itself, but one of those ones that should be put in that high elite. Sort of just goes under the radar a bit. But he's such a super player, Tubes. Still killing it. Close to 300 games if he plays this year, I think, for the club. So he'd be one of the potentially most capped Rooster ever. Once again, goes under the radar.
Sam Walker's
but that
back.
try looked slow. What was he doing?
I don't know, but he just, I don't know if he thought it was a double movement because they had hands on him, but he ended up scoring the try. The Roosters are welcome back Sam Walker. I think it's round 15, which is 2 weeks away. Where do you see him coming in? Too? Had a coffee with him too, yeah. So we'll have to get Gabe because we're releasing our Adam Reynolds video coming up this week, tomorrow, for his 300th. So hopefully you'll get a good insight into that. And then weeks to come when our great little mate, Sammy Walker, comes, we'll release him, try and release him at the right time. So fans of these players, get in and have a listen. Obviously, they're pre-recorded. But
Mitch Moses' one's on there. He's hardly been watched. One of the greats. Viewers, what are you doing?
I guess we started with the GOAT and there was so much hype around it. But the people, the valid and the blokes that are supporting us that get to listen to it, they're the ones that had a win. Because if you're letting it go and you're not listening to it, and you're a dad or a rugby league fan or a coach, you're missing so many gems of what they speak about. We're not talking about anything other than footy. So get in there and have a listen to them, because what it does, it gives you an insight of what they are away from footy, not the 80 minutes or what they do away from it. It's about how they learnt to play 6 or 7 as young kids, and they also give advice to young 6s and 7s. So if you're a dad out there and you want your son to be a half, jump on and have a listen and go do what these blokes players done as younger halves and get better at that craft, because if you don't, your son won't make it. Brutally honest.
I was listening through to the Adam Reynolds one there, and yeah, as you were saying, there's some great gems in there, especially for smaller players. Like, yeah, it's elite. Get into it.
Great perspective from all of them. They all speak so different as well. All got different ways of looking at the game and different things and things that work for them, little cues and things that they do during the week in their preparation. So if you've got a spare time in your car drive, chuck it on. Tell your friends.
Well,
the Roosters played good, Toddy. Jeez, they were good.
Oh, they got better. Obviously,
Rob Sawyer's try.
Great signs from moving forward. They're working really hard away from it. They're getting some wins. I still believe they'll push the case to play finals. It'll be interesting when Sammy Walker does come back on how he plays and what style of footy, who will miss out, if it will be Sandon or Hugo. Obviously, there's a debate for different things, because if you're looking on, say if Sandon was to leave the club this year, so then you'd obviously look to the future and you'd keep Hugo there, because if they didn't sign DC or if injuries to come, it would be Hugo and Sam moving forward. So obviously at one part you've obviously got to look at the instant success straight away, or you look to the future depending on where they are. So it'd be interesting one to see how it unfolds. 1 with the DCE saga, 2 Sandon Smith, 3 Hugo Savala, then Sam Walker comes back into the fold. So it's also positive signs for the Sydney Roosters.
Yeah, they're a chance. Top 6, you reckon? Roosters?
No, I don't think it'll be top 6. They've still got to find a way to get some wins in team. I think there's going to be so many ups and downs and changes to the ladder moving forward. Even Gabe speaking about the Roosters, there's 13 games still left to go. Panthers need to win 8. So there's so many teams in between that you probably don't think will play a final. So it's sort of, we'll talk about in 10 weeks' time who we think our top 8 will be, because it's too hard to speak about now.
Jeez, it goes quick. 13 games left. It feels like the comp just started. I know it's still a fair while, but That's a long
100%.
time. Sorry, that's gone quick. Yeah. Super quick.
Well, that is a wrap for our round 13 review. It's been a great week of rugby league. A better week coming. Obviously, our Origin teams will be picked this Sunday. Myself and Mitch will be back with you tomorrow talking about our preview for round 14, and we will have a discussion around who we think will come in, for Mitch Barnett, and also what we think the Queensland team will be, because there's speculation around DCE. What our thoughts would...
Thursday that'll come out.
So Thursday that'll come out. So we'll have a discussion about how we think the teams will line up. But enjoy your week, and we'll see you on Thursday to talk about all things Origin and whatever happens over the next 24 hours of rugby league, because 24 hours in rugby league is a long time. Who knows what will happen? But, hey, get back and watch us and listen to us, because you're missing so many gems.
Stay alive, footy nerds. Stay alive. We've got more love in us.
In the fight.
More footy talk. More hope. More blessings.